Welcome to today's video. We are going to be making the most delicious and easiest baked shrimp scampi. There are only a couple ingredients that need to be prepped for this recipe, so to make that easier, I like to secure my cutting board with a damp paper towel, and that's going to prevent it from sliding around while you're chopping and makes it a lot easier to do your prep work. The first thing that we're going to cut up are a couple of green onions. For this recipe, you can use green onion, shallot, regular onions, whatever you prefer. Honestly, I would stick to a green onion or the shallots because they're going to have a lot milder of the onion flavor, and you don't want something that's going to be too overpowering, but again, it's a personal preference. I'm going to set those green onions aside and then go ahead and get started on chopping up my garlic. Now, the recipe calls for 1 clove of garlic, but my family's Greek and that's just not enough. And I think even if you're not Greek, for most people, that's just not enough. So I'm going to do 3 cloves of garlic. For me, it's just easiest to smash the garlic to peel it. Now, a lot of people you'll see like aggressively, hitting it like it's a hammer on the knife in order to do that, but you don't need to do that. And honestly, it's dangerous. So I just place my knife on top of it and press down firmly, and that makes it really easy to peel off the outside of the garlic. And then after that, I'm just going to mince it finely, and we will be all set to get our sauce together. And moving on over to our stove, I'm going to add 1 stick of butter, which is a 1/2 cup, into a small saucepan. You do want to let this melt down and start bubbling before you add your other ingredients. As you can see, our butter is starting to foam up a little bit, so I'm going to add in the garlic and green onion that we chopped previously. And then to that, I'm going to add the juice of 1/2 of a lemon, about a teaspoon of capers, and we'll get to that in just a minute, and then some salt and pepper. I'm adding just a little bit of salt because the butter I use is salted, plus the capers have salt in the brine that they're in, so you don't add too much. I'm adding about a teaspoon of dried parsley. You can also use fresh if you prefer. I just didn't have it on hand. It says about a splash of Worcestershire sauce. I did about a splash and a half. And then a splash of hot sauce. All right, so just a little note about the capers. If you don't think that you like them or you've never tried them, then I am the same way. Have no fear. They are really good in this recipe. Honestly, if you don't like them, I would still put them in and then eat around it or take it out because it really does add a great flavor to the dish. From here, you're just going to allow that butter mixture to simmer for about 1 to 2 minutes and let all of the ingredients combine well together. It allows the garlic to start cooking, but you don't want to let it go for too long because it is going to be baking in the oven, so we don't want it to completely cook and then burn our garlic. After 1 to 2 minutes, I'm just going to set that pan aside to allow it to start cooling while I get my shrimp prepared. I'm just using a pie dish here and lining the shrimp up along the plate. You don't have to do it any particular way. It does not have to be fancy by any means. You just want it to be in a single layer along the bottom of the dish. For this, I am using previously frozen shrimp that I thawed in my refrigerator overnight. You can use fresh, obviously that would be best. I just didn't have it available to me where we're located. So I used frozen and it doesn't matter. I'm telling you, it is still absolutely delicious. You want to make sure that they are peeled and deveined. I bought it that way so I didn't have to do it. But if you don't mind and you want to do it yourself, by all means, you can go ahead and do that. Now we're going to go ahead and top the shrimp with that cooled butter mixture. For this particular day, I was making this ahead and putting it in the refrigerator, which is something that I love about this recipe because you can have it ready to go for if you're having people over for dinner and you don't want to be cooking like right when they're coming in. You can prepare it earlier in the day. If you are doing that, I do say and recommend to allow the butter to cool completely. You don't want to put warm butter on the raw shrimp and then put it in your refrigerator. If you're going to be putting it straight into the oven, then by all means, I would just let it cool slightly before you put it over the shrimp and go ahead and pop it in the oven. Since we are going to be putting it in the refrigerator though, I am going to go ahead and just cover it with foil and then pop it in until I'm ready to use it. I do recommend taking it out of the refrigerator about 10 minutes or 10 to 15 minutes before you are going to bake it. So this is it out of the refrigerator, and now the last step is to top with half a cup of panko breadcrumbs. You do not need to add butter to them because obviously there's a lot of butter in the dish with the shrimp. So that kind of starts to combine with the panko and it will allow it to brown nicely, which you can see here. So I popped it into a 400-degree oven for about 8 to 10 minutes and served it with rice, which was absolutely delicious. I really hope that you enjoy this recipe and leave me a comment if you try it below.